Gentlemen, welcome to the Order of Man podcast. If you've been with us for any amount of time, it's likely know what we're all about here. But if you are new to this podcast and this movement, what I want you to know is that this is designed to explore the concepts of masculinity and help us understand better what it means to be a man. And of course, take action towards improving ourselves and our capability and effectiveness as fathers and husbands and business owners and community leaders. And so, we've got this incredible resource here, the podcast, where we've interviewed guys like Jocko Willink and David Goggins and Steve Ranella and Andy Frisilla, Tim Kennedy, Robert Greene a couple of weeks ago. The men that have decided to band with us in one form or another is absolutely incredible and a testament to the fact that the work we're doing here is much needed in this society that is at best increasingly dismissive of men and masculinity, and at worst, attempting to undermine and erode what it is that we as men represent in our families and in our communities. And that's exactly what I wanted to talk with you about today. The other day, I got exploring and thinking about the concept of an anchor. And I started thinking about this because, as many of you know, we're building the canoe. And I started thinking about the elements of the canoe and everything else. And although we don't have an anchor on the canoe, it's an element of boating. And I started thinking about anchors and how they're built and why they're built and shaped the way they are. And because this is what I do, I geek out on some of this stuff. And so I started to explore and do a little research. And I started to think about also how being an anchor relates to us as men. In fact, it's our job to be the anchor for our families and those in the community. Because if we aren't present, if we aren't the anchor to the ship, then it's very easy for that ship. Let's just assume for a second that it's your family. It's very easy for your family, your wife, your children, the people under your care to get knocked off course, to be drifting by the doctrine of popular culture, which says that you can choose whichever gender you want to be, sexualizing of children, introducing them to drugs and alcohol and pornography. And this is what I have dubbed the doctrine of popular culture. It doesn't serve us well. And if we're going to go on my continued analogy of the anchor, the doctrine of popular culture, which is a degenerate society, it says that you can be weak and fat and lazy and pathetic, and it's encouraged. And if you have any mistakes that you make along the way, you don't have to deal with the consequences. Somebody or the government will come in and bail you out. And there is no long-term ramifications for the decisions that you make. This is the doctrine of popular culture. And along the lines of the analogy of the anchor, this is the wind. This is the drift of the sea. These are the forces at work against us. So if you're a father, I imagine that your goal is to lead your wife and your children effectively so that you can raise self-sufficient, strong, capable sons and daughters to go out and lead their families and their communities well when the time comes. And the doctrine of popular culture doesn't want that. They don't want strong, independent young men and young women going out into their communities, going out into the workforce. They want them to be subjected to their rule and their dominion and power. And I'm not interested in that for my family. So I have to be the anchor. I have to step up. I have to be strong. I have to be capable. I have to fashion myself in a certain way so that I can do what it is I want to do, which is to keep that ship where it needs to be and not drift along, just tossed to and fro based on every whim and feeling and idea of this doctrine of popular culture. So as I started to explore what it means to be an anchor, I looked at the weight of anchors. I looked at the shape of anchors, and I always wondered why they had the little arms on the bottom. You typically will see two arms on an anchor. There's different types, but that's typically what you'll see. And I actually had no idea that actually dug into the ground, that you actually have to set the hook of the anchor. So the sea captain will, there's different types of anchors. There's sea anchors. There's anchors that anchor themselves actually to the bottom of the seabed. And this is what I'm talking about in particular. But that captain will actually set the hook of the anchor into the bedrock of the sea floor. I had no idea that was the case. And that's what we need to do. I thought it was just a heavy weight and it just kept it there. But no, you set the hook of the anchor, you drop it down, you set it in there, and you bury that into the bedrock of the sea floor so that that boat is not going to go anywhere. And that's what we need to do. You think about the way that anchors are built and the iron that they're constructed of, and how they've evolved and changed and morphed in order to be more effective over time. That's what we need to be, guys. We need to be strong and capable and efficient. We need to know what our role is. We need to be able to withstand the winds of change and again, this doctrine of popular culture. But we also need to set the hook. What does that mean in our own lives? It means that you need to have a method for grounding yourself. Because if you don't, you are going to get distracted. You are going to be tempted, and you're not going to do your job. You're going to be weak and you're going to be pathetic, and you're going to undermine what it is you're trying to do. You're going to succumb to addiction and pornography and alcohol and potentially lust for other women. And you're going to get yourself into a world of hurt, not let alone the people that you're trying to serve. So how do we set the hook when it comes to the anchor in our own personal lives? It's very simple. It's very, very simple. It's definitely harder to implement, but the strategy is simple. There's two main components of this. All right. Number one, you've got to have a solid tribe. You have to have a solid tribe, because I'm telling you, there are forces at work against you, some deliberate and intentional, and some just the nature of life itself. There are forces at work against you. And if you don't have a tribe in your corner anchoring you to the sea floor, to the foundational principles of what it means to be a man and a father and a husband and a leader within your community, potentially a business owner, an entrepreneur, or a politician, or you're serving some sort of church or spiritual services, if you don't have that tribe, you're not going to be nearly as strong. And you're going to break and you're going to crack and you aren't going to do your job. It's going to happen slowly, methodically, gradually, and over time, but your strength will be compromised. And look, I get it. Sometimes it's hard. Every time I talk about building a tribe and working with a band of brothers and having other men in your corner, inevitably I have some men who say, well, I'm an alpha or I'm an omega. And they use these Greek letters from the alphabet to describe themselves. And anytime somebody does that, you always take what they say with a grain of salt. But I don't need anybody in my corner. I can do this on my own. Well, that just isn't true. It hasn't been true for as long as human beings have been walking this planet. We are social creatures. We work best in tribes, in communities. We play on team sports. We work collectively together, and we're stronger and we're more capable and effective when we do that. I remember sports as I was younger. We had guys that we needed to give the proverbial and sometimes literal kick in the ass to get them going. And sometimes I needed that too. And without somebody in my corner, I just wouldn't have been as effective or capable. And then knowing that I'm part of a team when I was in the military, knowing that I was part of a team and that I had a responsibility and something that I needed to do because I knew other people relying upon me, it made me stronger. It made me more capable. And it gave me a greater desire to be able to step up and do what needed to be done, because not only did I not want to let myself down, I didn't want to let the team down. So guys, you have to have a tribe. You have to have a band of brothers. You have to have strong men in your corner. And this is how you set the hook. This is how you anchor yourself to the foundational principles and roles and responsibilities that you have and have a desire to fill. Find good men in your corner. I know it's been perpetuated by Hollywood and social media and the entertainment industry that the lone wolf is the way to go. Be James Bond or be Jason Bourne or be the Marlboro Man or any number of guys that I think a lot of us would maybe perceive as the epitome of masculinity. And I'm telling you, it isn't right. Could you go at it alone? Maybe to some degree, but I'm interested in going further, faster, more effectively, more efficiently. And I don't want to be tempted by the things that I know are not going to serve me well. Pornography, alcohol, drug addiction, lust, the desire just to be mediocre and lazy and want the result without the efforts. This is, again, the doctrine of popular culture. It's the current, it's the drift, it's the wind of the doctrine of popular culture. I need good men to anchor myself to. So inventory your circle, inventory your life. See if you have these types of individuals. And one thing I noticed when I was doing some research on anchors themselves is you actually have to set the hook in the right place in a seafloor that just won't give way. And so many of us might say, well, Ryan, I have guys in my corner. I have friends. These are friends from high school, or these are people I work with, or these are neighbors, and I have friends, and they're my tribe. Well, is it a good tribe? Because I'm not just talking about warm bodies. I'm talking about the highest caliber men that you can possibly have. That's what I want in my life. So I inventory my life, and I constantly strive to surround myself with other men. That's part of the reason I do this podcast, because I get to have conversations with world-class performers, sports, entertainment, business, family, finances, et cetera, et cetera. And these are the men that I get to say are my bedrock that I can set the hook into. And they're going to hold me accountable, and they're going to ensure that I'm doing the right things. So that's number one. Number two, it's the information that you put into your brain. All right. If you're constantly feeding your mind a bunch of garbage and filth and that propaganda, we'll call it, from the doctrine of popular culture, you're just hacking away on social media. You're watching all the movies, you're watching all the videos, and you're just going by default. That's not strong. That's weak. That's pathetic. That's lazy. And it's a detriment to your own well-being, because it says that you can be fat, that you can be lazy, that you can be pathetic, that you don't have to deal with the consequences of your decisions, that you can cheat, that you can lie, that you can steal, that you can get addicted to substances. And all of that is okay because life's hard. And so it's okay. It's not okay. It's not okay to behave like that. And you know it isn't, because you wouldn't be listening to this podcast trying to improve yourself as a man if you actually believe that was the case. Now, I'll give you this. It's easier. It's easier not to be the anchor. It's easier to get on the ship and just be a passenger and just let the drift take you where it needs to go. There's no force working against you, or there's no strain that you have to exert in order to just drift and coast with the winds and the seas. That's easier. That's what most people will do. That's what boys will do. Males will do that. Men resist that, and they have systems in place. Part of that is the tribe, and the other part is the information that they're consuming. Are you deliberate about the information that you're consuming? What kind of books are you reading? What kind of podcasts are you listening to? What newsletters, email newsletters have you signed up for? Who do you claim to be authority figures? Who are you learning from? Are these righteous individuals that you're learning positive values that are going to serve you and others well? Or are you learning from those who want you to veer off course and want you to go their way? Because look, you're going to follow a plan. There's no doubt. You're going to follow somebody else's plan or your plan. And in order to sink your teeth, to set that anchor yourself where it needs to be firmly planted in the bedrock of the sea floor, you got to have a tribe, and you got to have the information to keep you on track. A lot of us will say, well, I'm strong. I'm strong. I can resist. I'm strong. Well, yeah, maybe. For how long? We know willpower is fleeting. So without the framework and the network, how long can you stay? How long can you withstand the forces of nature at work against you? Some more than others. I don't know how long it is for you, but my goal is to be there as long as it needs to be. I need to hold as long as I need to hold. And the people on the ship relying upon me need to know that I'm not going to be jeopardized, that I'm not going to break when the situation calls for it, or when they need me to be as strong as I possibly can. And there's only two general ways to do that: the people you surround yourself with and the information that you put into your head. Part of what you're doing listening to this podcast is the information you're putting in your head, and that's good. But guys, I want you to wrap your head around the anchor. Wrap your head around that metaphor and why being that way is ultimately going to serve you and others well. It's hard. There's forces at work against you, some deliberate and intentional, and some just the nature of the world, the nature of the way that it works. But those forces are real. They want you to falter. They want you to break. They want you to bend. They want you to fail at your job of keeping your family and your community members, your employees, your people, will say, safe and protected and secure and on the right path. And guys, sometimes we need to pull the anchor up, right? Sometimes we need to go somewhere by design, not by default, but by design. We need to move our families across the country, for example, or take a new job, or uh, maybe change priorities a little bit because there's some events that have come up, like the response to COVID. And so you need to adjust and pivot for that. So we can pull ourselves up, but it's on our time. It's not because we break, our integrity is lacking. It's on our time. And then we set sail for whatever we need to set sail. And then we become more of the sail or the motor of the boat. And then at times we need to, again, establish ourselves as the anchor. So guys, that's my metaphor. I got to play around with that metaphor a little bit more, but I was thinking about that over the past week, and something that really struck home for me is, am I strong enough? Am I capable enough? Can I keep the ship at bay? Can I keep it from drifting and tossing to and fro with the doctrine of popular culture? I'm not going to tell you that I have this all locked down perfectly, but I realize the importance of it. I'm trying to become stronger and more capable. I think you're trying to do the same, and we can do this together. And that's always been the goal of Order of Man, is to do this together. You know, no man is an island. No man is meant to walk this thing we call life alone. So this movement has really been a goal to band men together who want to thrive, who want to succeed, who want to excel, who want to act as the anchor for the people in their lives. And we're trying to provide those resources and tools to you. So with that said, we'll sign out for the week. We've got a couple of good podcasts coming up, guys. Just recorded with Granger Smith. A lot of you guys might know his alter ego, which is Earl Dibbles Jr. So that one's going to be coming out in the next week or two. Also, we just recorded a podcast with Ethan Suppley. He is an actor. A lot of you guys may know him from Remember the Titans, Without a Paddle. He's been on probably 24 other movies. And his fitness journey over the past several years has just been absolutely incredible. He's got a great podcast called The American Glutton Podcast. So he just recorded with us. So we got some good ones coming out. Make sure do a couple of things. Subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode, and then leave a rating and review. I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but I can assure you that goes a long way in getting us to climb the charts within iTunes. And then, of course, that gets this message of becoming a more effective, more capable man to the masses. And the masses need to hear this. And by the way, as we become the anchor of ourselves and our families and our friends' lives, we can also help turn the tide, turn the drift. We do that by changing culture. And even if that means the culture of your business or your family or your community or your neighborhood, but that gradually expands outwards. And the more people we can get involved in this mission, this noble mission and noble work to reclaim and restore masculinity, the better off that everybody, every single person is going to be. So I appreciate you being on this path with me. Again, we'll be back next week. So subscribe. But until then, go out there, take action, and become the man you are meant to be.